This is a controversial issue. We've talked about it. We talked about it yesterday with a privacy advocate who was very critical of Apple. But it seems to me that a lot of people are misunderstanding what Apple is doing here, in part because the backup of your photos, it's almost on by default. Lots of people have iCloud turned on, whether they're using it and paying for it or not. Is that part of the difficulty here?
Yeah, because, I mean, Apple knows the answers to some of this. They know how many people use iCloud photos and how many photos they have in it. But we don't, and they don't really publicly announce it. And one of the longtime criticisms of Apple's online services is that the free tier of iCloud has had a 5 gigabyte storage limit forever. I mean, going back at least 10 years, which is not a lot, considering that that's supposed to contain all of your photos if you're using photo backup, all of your device backups if you're using online device backups, which people should, because it's a great feature that keeps all of your stuff ready to go if you need to download it to a new device. But most people can't fit it all in 5 gigabytes. So who knows how many people are doing it.
John, part of the issue here, too, is that cloud services, cloud-specific services, have been searching for these child pornography images from the known database for a long time. Correct. Right. So if you're backing your photos up on Google Photos on an Android device, et cetera, Dropbox, we were just talking to Drew Houston about this last week. It's already been happening. Is this, in your view, a contradiction to Apple's stated policies on backdoors into phones or on keeping government out of phones, or no?
I think not, but it is definitely a slippery slope. I know that phrase gets used a lot. But Apple, from my conversations with them and reading their documentation, is painfully aware of how delicate this needs to be very specific to this issue. And just to throw out some numbers. So NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Endangered Children, is the only organization that is allowed to hold this material there. And if an online provider comes across it, they must report it. And that's the organization. And they publish the numbers of what these cloud providers report. Facebook reported 20 million instances in 2020. It's just a staggering number. I did the math. It's sickening. It's like 55,000 a day, every day, 365 days a year. Apple only reported like 200 cases. And that's because the way that Apple's setup was, Apple doesn't come across it. And so I believe that most of those, or all of those 200, is when law enforcement would come to Apple and say, we're looking at this individual, here's a warrant, can we look at this person's photos? And then they're, okay, here, now we have to report these photos to NCMEC. But 20 million versus 200 shows that Apple just wasn't really doing it. And the law isn't written that these companies have to go and look for it. They don't have to search for it. What they have to do is, if they do come across it, if they're made aware of it, they do have to report it. And so I think that the system Apple has come up with, it is a little different in that the matching against the database happens on your device, not in the cloud, but it only happens for the images that you were about to send to the cloud because you volunteer to use iCloud photos to back up your photos.